Hey everybody, welcome to my new channel, Tales from the Treadmill. My name is Toby. Here we are talking about my past addiction issues, my road to recovery, and now the light that I found in sobriety. If that resonates with you in any kind of a way, please click the subscribe button and like my videos. It'd help me out. And whether you're struggling right now with any of these issues, or you found yourself in sobriety, I'd love to hear from you guys. Leave comments down and questions, anything you'd like to know. Hit me up down in the comments section. And I'm gonna make videos on things that people suggest. It's such a in-depth story, and I'm kind of skimming through it just to get through what my addiction issues were, because it's been far removed as far as any drugs are concerned. And then the biggest battle that I had is definitely with alcohol. So anyway, if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for being here. I'm trying to get my setup better and fixed, and I actually got a stand for it. So hopefully this is going to be better. I tested it out last night. There was no clicking noise. You're still hearing the treadmill, but I think that's just going to kind of be a part of what goes on until I just get better setup. So I'm working on it, but again, thank you for being here. I really can't thank you enough for joining me on this road to recovery. So I want to start by talking about my mom today, because the next part of the story involves her, and she was a huge part of my life. I'm a musician because of her. I play guitar because of her. She influenced me, and I know my sisters and everyone that she ever met. She was just a huge, loving person. She had a huge heart, is what I was trying to say, and she always gave everything she had to everyone, and especially her kids. I mean, when we were growing up, anything, she never pushed us into doing anything at all. It was always just, if any of us showed interest in something, and she would do it. I mean, when I decided I wanted to play soccer, she became an assistant coach on the soccer team. I mean, that's just how she was, and not only with that, but with she was an artist in every sense of the word. She was a painter. She taught dance lessons. She also, she started to learn how to play the guitar, I think I want to say when she was 27 years old. It's pretty late for a person to really start, but by the time she was like in her early 30s, she was teaching guitar at Eastfield College. And when I took interest in the guitar, she saw that I was wanting to do something with it, and she's a classical guitarist. I mean, she that was her passion, was classical guitar. So that's what she did. She knew how to read music and all of that cool stuff. And but when she saw that I was interested in rock and roll, Eddie Van Halen, I was just, blown away by Eddie Van Halen. I wanted to learn how to play the rock guitar. So what she did was she went and learned it herself so that she could start teaching me. She taught me how to play Purple Haze. The first thing she ever taught me was Rock You Like a Hurricane from the Scorpions. She taught me Purple Haze. She taught me an AC/DC song. She taught me Led Zeppelin. Eric Clapton. She started me off with a good foundation of rock and roll, and then I kind of just took it all from there. As I never really learned how to read music, I regret that now. But I'm an ear player, so I listen to things and play them as I go. And it was funny because it kind of, perturbed her a little bit, because she was like, "You need to learn how to read music," and she was right. I should have. I wish I would have, because I'd be so much more knowledgeable. You know what? When you're young, you think you know everything. It's so stupid. But I just want to say that she was just such an incredible human being, I've talked about this a couple times, but she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease when she was 40 years old. And at that time, it wasn't really a super known thing. It was a few years later that Michael J. Fox, came out and said that he had been, diagnosed with that as well. And really, people didn't know a lot about it. I mean, we certainly didn't. We had to learn as we went, and she dealt with that for 25 years. She passed when she was 64 years old, and that's kind of what I want to get into today, because the part of the story where I left off yesterday was, Jarrett from Bowling for Soup had come up to the bar that I worked at in Louisville to hang out. We were hanging out, we were, talking, having a couple beers and stuff like that, maybe a couple shots. I mean, it was, that's how things were back then. And this is 2013. So we were talking because his granddad had Parkinson's disease and my mom did. And so we were, just talking about those experiences with each other and hanging out. Such a good dude. I mean, such a good person. I'm really glad to know him. And the band, of course. I mean, come on, we got to tour with the band. Back in the day, one of my favorite tours that we ever did was with Bowling for Soup. We were out for like a month or two with those guys, and it was just the most fun ever. They're just super cool dudes. So anyhow, we're hanging out that night, and at the end of the night, I think I took one more shot of Fireball. It was like, I never left that bar. I mean, it was never before 3 o'clock in the morning. It was probably 3:30ish in the morning. Of course, I jump in my truck like a fucking moron and start driving down 35. And, the thing about this is that I want to get across is that I was buzzed, yeah, but I was not anywhere near the level of inebriated that I had actually previously driven my vehicle. I look back on all of those times. I just thank God that I didn't kill or hurt anyone, outside of myself. I mean, it's such a devastating thing that alcohol can be to people. It kills so many people every year. It's insane. So anyhow, what ends up happening is I get on 35. For some reason in my mind, I thought the speed limit was 70 on 35, but I think it was because I had been taking the toll road so much, and it is 70 there. So I'm going probably 80 or 82 or something like that. And I'm with traffic. I mean, and I clearly remember this entire night. So this was not like a wasted night for me. This was just, I drank, and then I got on 35 and I sped, and a state trooper pulled me over. And when he pulled me over for speeding, and I was like, well, I was just going with the flow of traffic, sir. And he must have smelled the Fireball, because that stuff just stays with you. So he got me out of the car, did a very quick field sobriety test. I mean, it was not a full field sobriety test, and then he put me in cuffs and put me in the car. And we sat there forever, and I just sat there and wallowed in my sadness because of what was going on with my mom at the time. She was coming near to the end of her journey here on this earth, and we knew it. It was happening. And I remember sitting there thinking about that, and just how disappointed she would have been to know that I'm in cuffs in a freaking cop car at almost 4 o'clock in the morning. And at this time, April and I were fully together. We had come back together. We had dedicated ourselves to each other. And I just was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to call her and have her help me out. Now that night, I did make a really good amount of money, luckily, because it paid for what happened, So I get to he takes me to Denton County, I go into booking. I ended up having April's number and my buddy James's number, that my buddy James that owned the bar that I worked at. So, he was out of town though. So I think, I want to say he was out of town. I remember calling him. Anyway, I'm in the drunk tank with these people. There's people passed out everywhere. And I'm sitting there just contemplating, like, what is wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like, and at that time, y'all, I was the worst alcoholic that I've ever been. I mean, I think it was because I was just trying to get away from my feelings and what was going on. But I was literally waking up and drinking until I went to bed or passed out or whatever it was later that night. I was working, but I mean, I was just I was a mess. I was a complete mess. So anyway, April ended up having to come and bail me out. I felt like such an idiot. I told her, hey, I've got the cash. They'll give it to me when you get me out. And it cost me the amount of money. I think it was like $300 or something like that. So I ended up paying that. And so a few days later, my mom went into hospice, and we lost her. And that was a really difficult time in my. It's very hard to talk about still because I just miss her so much, and we all do. I'm losing my train of thought because of that. So anyway, she passes away, and I was a complete train wreck. I mean, I was off the rails. I couldn't think straight. Because I was drinking, and I had somehow gotten some Xanax, and I was doing that at the same time as well. So anyway, there was something that happened I'm trying to get to right now. I'm sorry about this. So what ends up happening is after that happened, and I was off work for a couple weeks. My buddy James was the best about that. I think I took 2 weeks off. I was just a wreck. I was, kind of losing my mind at the time, to be honest with you guys. What ends up happening is there was a car service. I remember somebody came in to the bar and offered a service to with their cards there, for anyone that we could pass them out to people, and if they were inebriated and they needed a ride, you could call this number. I'm sorry, y'all. You could call this number and they would come and pick you up from the bar and take you wherever you needed to go. And there was a certain radius of miles, but on the card, I'll never forget, there was an owl, right? And that was their logo, and I thought that was a cool service so we gave those cards out to everybody. And I don't know if, people use them or whatever. I think they did. I think I remember them using them. But what I'm getting to is this. A few days later, so my mom passed on June 25th of 2013. So a few days later, me and April were hanging out. And we were in Rowlett here. And she was living with her dad and stepmom at the time. And I always would go over there and hang out and whatever. And it's I would say about 1:30 in the morning, and April was craving McDonald's. So, it's her jam, so, so I was like, all right, well, let's go get some McDonald's. You know what I mean? Let's do it. So we got in my truck, we drove to McDonald's. We were on our way back, and when you come back into Waterview, there's trees and a median in the middle that goes down that separates the lanes, right? So we're driving back, and the thing was, we were sober. I don't think we even drank that night. And what ends up happening is we're almost to her dad's house, and we're driving by, and out of nowhere, out of one of the trees, an owl flew literally this far in front of my windshield as I'm driving. I mean, what it did was it flew right in front of me, and then it turned and it just did this, flew directly in front of my truck. And of course, we're both like, ah, 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 I mean, it was insane, y'all. I mean, it was one of the craziest things that's ever happened in my life. And the bird was just flying like this, and I'm driving wait, what is that? We're freaking out. So the bird just flies, and as we're coming up to April's dad's house, Larry's house on the right, the bird takes a left and goes out over the golf course and flies off, okay? Now, something I'm going to get into on another thing is I've got a really weird relationship with birds. Birds will come at me. They always come near. It's bizarre. You can ask anyone that knows me. There's a very weird thing that happens with me with birds. I don't know why. But in that moment, that owl was just it was huge too, and it was just, And so, I wish there was a video of this, because the two of us we were just freaking out, screaming and stuff. And then when it flies off over the golf course, we take a right, we pull into the driveway because the house is right there. I get out of the car to go let April out, because I'm the gentleman that I am. I stepped out of that truck, and if there's a tornado around, how everything is super just still. It feels like a vacuum had sucked all of everything out of the atmosphere. That's what it felt like right then. I stepped outside and I stood there, and it was eerie. It was an eerie. I can't even. It's hard for me to even describe it in words, other than what I just said. If you've been in a situation where you're anywhere near a tornado, you know that everything there's this calm that happens, and it feels like the energy has just been sucked out of the atmosphere, and it's like you're in a vacuum. It's the most bizarre thing. So I go over to the side, I open April's door, I'm like, babe, come out here and check this out. And we just stood there and felt this, and I'm like, that had to have been my mom letting me know that, she's okay, and she's moving on, and that everything's going to be okay. But I think we laughed about it later, because I think that, she was probably laughing her ass off at how we were reacting to this situation, because it was such a shock and such a weird thing. But anyway, y'all, that's that the kind of the ones I started thinking about. That I had once my mom passed too. There were all these crazy signs. I'm the kind of person that I see signs and things, and I look for the meaning in those things. I just don't go, oh, that was weird, you know what I mean, and let it go. I actually look for the meaning in things and what they mean. And I'm going to do a whole other thing on this because I want to get to what ends up happening here. So after we had her funeral, and it was wonderful, and a lot of people came, everything, I was still drinking and taking Xanax and to get through this whole period of time. I felt like, I look back on it now, I'm like, why couldn't you just be sober? But it is what it is. So what ends up happening is, after the couple weeks I took off, something had changed in me. And this right here is the part of the story where I feel like the actual road to recovery began, okay? A couple weeks after my mom passed, I just had some kind of a revelation, and maybe it's because of the owl thing that happened, and my mind just put all these things together, but I realized that I needed to get my shit together, okay? I just had been pulled over on suspicion of a DUI, DWI, whatever, and I had to report to a bail bondsman. I had to do all that for like 2 years, man. And but I was thinking, my mom would not want this. This is not the version of me that I should be. I need to be a better version of myself. Something needs to change. And what it was I was like, I need to stop drinking. Drinking was the last real problem that I had. It was the first problem that I had. It was the last problem that I had. What I've realized is that drinking was the actual gateway that sent me into everything that I did, and it's the exit. And it was by far the absolute most difficult thing that I had to quit. And the reason I'm saying that is because it took me 7 years to finish. Now, I never went to therapy. I never tried to go to rehab because I thought I could just do it myself. And I did, but it took a long time. I don't know if I'd have done those things. I think if you're having issues with any of these things, seek help. Go to therapy. Go to rehab. I mean, do those things because you might get out of this quicker. But it took me a long time of when I first decided I needed to stop drinking. And I did. I stopped drinking a couple weeks after my mom passed. I quit. And the next time that I drank was in November. That was in June, so that's about 5 or 6 months later. April and I had an anniversary date, and we went out and we shared a bottle of wine. I didn't think that's not what I did. What I did was to excess with everything. That rock and roll party lifestyle. I took everything and I did it till it was gone, okay? That night that we had wine at our little anniversary date thing, Simply Fondue, I think is where we went. Anyway, we shared a bottle of wine. I don't even think we finished it, but I felt weird because I was like, well, I'm drinking, but I didn't get wasted or anything like that. So I didn't drink again for a while, and I think I need to quit entirely. Well, over the next coming years, some really incredible things happened, and I'm going to get into that in the next video. I would quit for like 6 or 8 months, and then my pattern was something traumatic would happen, and I'd backslide right back into it. Maybe I hurt my knee, or I couldn't walk very well for a few months, or it's things like that. It was my pattern, and I figured out that that's the pattern that I was living. I was trying to be good, something bad would happen, and I would fall right back into those bad habits, try to escape. And that was what was going on. So anyway, my next video, I'm going to get into some other things, and it's going to move us forward, and hopefully we're going to get to the sobriety part here, I think, next week, which is going to be awesome. I can't wait. And I think I am going to start a podcast with this YouTube channel to bring other people on to talk about, their past addiction issues, or, their struggles and their sobriety, if they're sober, or if they just want to talk. That's what I want this to be about, is an open forum to discuss, these are mental health issues, really. And I think we need to take away the weirdness of talking about it, because there are good people dealing with this very thing that don't need to be just dismissed. Oh, that's just a this or that. No, they're good people. We don't dismiss people, right? So That's what we're going to do. I'm also starting another podcast with a couple of buddies of mine. It's going to be really funny, but we're also going to get into some very heavy subject matter. So got a lot going on, with the real estate. I'm still writing songs. So life is beautiful. I couldn't be happier to be where I'm at right now. I'm going to bring my wife on here, April, and talk about her things and her issues. So it's going to get even more interesting because it won't just be about me. It's going to be about everyone, you guys, and everyone in my life who wants to be involved. I'm excited about that. So thanks again for being on this road to recovery with me and sticking this out. I hope this video won't have any of the clicking sounds. It was really annoying me. And then, and I'm going to get better at this. I'm going to figure out a better setup. You know what I mean? Like maybe switch the room around. I don't know. I'm going to mess with it till it turns into, till it looks, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. All right, guys? But again, thank you all for being here. Please subscribe to my channel if you're new here. Please leave comments down below, whether you're dealing with addiction issues or you're sober and you've been sober for however long. Let's celebrate that because it is something to be celebrated, y'all. Life is something to be celebrated. So, look, I love you guys. I hope you have as wonderful of a day as I'm about to. And I'll see you again tomorrow. All right, have a good one. Oh, you know what? I've got this little thing, and it'll just stop it.